Right, we rolling. Set up the parameters. And it's Freedom Phil, like subscribe. What's today's topic? Well, I want to talk about something ironic I found over the years when people try to do poverty shaming. And this works on a lot of people. It's how you control most people. But it doesn't work on me. And once again, if you're a parent and you're letting your kid watch my channel, then you're probably a shitty parent because I talk about real things. I cuss, I swear, I talk like an actual human. And frankly, you should know what your kids are watching. Channels for adults. Even though there's a lot of my wisdom that would actually greatly help the next generation. But I'm not going to try to deprogram you if you can't figure it out yourself. Yeah, Freedom Phil, let's get into it. Like, subscribe. Yeah, always turn up the video speed. Why? Because watch videos faster. Sometimes when I'll do a video, someone will see like the inside of the van or something, and they're like, oh my God, you're poor. You're poor. And it's like, yeah, whatever. I don't actually care. And let me explain why. I know the way I live is pretty extreme. I mean, I could do the van life thing where I make the interior look really nice and blah, blah. Yeah. For who? You have to understand, why do people do that? Well, maybe they want a nice looking situation. I don't want to add that extra weight, the money, or the time. I don't give a shit. They do it so other people will think they're worthy of existence. So the rest of the group, the herd, will accept them. I know that's a little deep and philosophical, but it's absolutely true. Why do you buy the fancy cars? Why do you want that sort of zip code? Why do you wear that type of clothing? If it's for you, now sometimes I'll hear that argument, but that's bullshit. You can go to a thrift store. If you have fashion sense and you're thin, God, if you're thin, especially if you're a lady, for instance, and you're able to stay thin, God forbid that. One of those college towns, the joke was the freshman 15, where these girls come to college and they gain 15 pounds because, kind of sad because they're not in their hometown. You could clean up if you have fashion sense. So no, it's about showing off to other people that you have disposable income. And it's a very, I don't want to say monkey way to think. It's like thousands of years, millions of years probably, of evolution from the ocean to the land to where we're mammals. We're still doing a lot of the same crap, the peacocking BS. And so you do it so other people will think you're valuable. So they'll keep you around. And you'll be invited into the upper echelons of things. But you basically spend how much of your life purchasing this image. I don't care about any of that crap. I know the inevitable. I know what you should have known as a child. I figured this out when I was a little kid to some certain degree. Because maybe put in you got in trouble too many times, the portables, where there was us and there was them. That level of segregation kind of gives you a real perspective on how people really are. You get treated like crap enough times when you're young by, your peers and people. This whole stepping stone of society, people trying to use you as a stepping stone. Sooner or later, what you realize is, yes, there's only you. And then, are you content? Are you happy with you? And a lot of people would say, well, are you a hermit, an isolationist? No, not necessarily, but I'm not going to go out and conform to all these standards that other people want because, well, what are they doing for me? See, that really gets at the heart of why. Why do you value the fancy car, the Gucci purse, the clothing, the so-called zip codes? I mean, if you really just evaluated most of it, a lot of it comes down to sex, and just reproduction. Like, why does the guy need to go out and get all these frivolous things? Well, to look like he's worthy of being, a potential partner. Why does he need that Ferrari? He could just pump iron, get some decent clothes, learn a few good come-on lines. But no, money is a sign that, it's a sign. If you have this much money to waste on this, that means you have that much money to waste on her. But take it back to our animalistic instincts. That means, effectively, you have more resources for potentially the family. Even though I think we've fucking got so skewed from that is a good reality if you think about it. I mean, if you have extra resources for the family, you also have extra resources to invest when you're young. Therefore, you have a legacy. So hypothetically, if you were to do something like what I was doing and you were working a real job, if you were living as cheap as absolutely possible in the early game and you were investing instead of buying frivolous things to impress people that ultimately do not care about you, yes, retirement by 30 is very fucking easy. But the reason you won't do that, and this comes back to the whole reason why I laugh at the whole concept of poverty shaming, is most of the people that would talk shit to someone like me, I can see that pickup truck or that Ferrari, Ferraris are rare. Let's be honest about that. That sports car, you don't actually own it. I want to tell you a little secret about the times that I've bummed change. And by the way, those that know, it's no secret. I've said it many times. I outright own 3 pieces of property, even a house that I don't really care to live in. I have what most of you dream of, and I don't care about it. It doesn't make me happy to have these status things. The biggest thing when it comes to people's lives, oh, your house and your blah, blah, blah. To me, a house is just a ball and chain connected to a place. If I don't like where I'm at doing van life, I just go somewhere else. Now, one thing ironic I found when I was bumming change, this is over the years, is the majority of, I've got more people that have handed me money that are generally those people, they're in vehicles that are a few years older. Where am I getting at with that? A lot of people with brand new vehicles, they don't own them. They have a payment on that. Now, there are a lot of people that would look over and be like, "Oh my God, get a job," and some of them even say that. Some will say some like shit like, I always thought it was funny. Some old boomer will point at like a McDonald's sign, like, "Hey, they're hiring over there," and I'm like, "Okay, go take that job, boomer." And they, I've actually had a few people get mad, and I'm like, "Dude, seriously, I only need about $200 to $300 a month. Like $100 is the baseline. Go to the food banks to get food. Like fuck out here, I could be out here for over probably 50 days or longer, before I need to go back to town for water. You understand that? It doesn't take shit for me to live. So I could shake my ass for one day, get $300, have all the vodka, all the weed I'd need, all the everything. One day, not even one whole day. Just like I planned it out, just like a bear, hunting and fishing, And by the way, thanks for subscribing. That's the thing about it, and that's the difference. Less than one day's worth of effort, I'm good for a month. Then we take it back to the people that are generally talking about, poverty shaming. And this is where we come to poor people that are either poor, working class poor, or people on welfare. That they have been so sold the image of what it means to be successful. The image of cars, clothes, Gucci purse, Louis Vuitton, whatever the fashion brands are these days. Assuming they're not made cheaply in India or some shit. My God, I remember when FUBU was a real thing. Now it's like garbage. It says for us, by us. And it's like, I'm sitting there, these shoes wear out in record time. And I'm like, I got them for cheap at a thrift store and they were in great shape. And I'm like, wow, these are nice shoes. I'm like, oh, I think I've heard of this brand. I'm like, wow, if it's for us, by us, you really let this go downhill. But I look at it and I think to myself, all that they do, all the years that they spend slaving away, whether it's mental slavery of people on welfare, no matter how much you give them, most of them will never be content. They will never learn any level of inner peace. Some people will never figure it out until they're damn near death. Some never figure it out. It's always one more purchase to be happy. And then there's the people who actually are out there working day to day. And it's always sad to me. You see these people, they got it all figured out. They got their house is almost paid off, or they've only got so far to go. And that's when they buy a brand new vehicle. I can't name the number of times over my life I've seen good, like friends, family members, or whatever. They're like, I've always wanted a brand new pickup. I'm like, yeah, but there's nothing wrong with your old pickup. I remember when I was a kid. This is back in the 90s. My buddy's dad had like a 1970s pickup truck. It was a GMC. Good hauler, good woodcutter, good everything. And he went out and bought a brand new Chevy Silverado. And I'll admit, it drove, it was, at that point, pickup trucks had become like Cadillacs. You know, the bucket seats, no bench seat, you know, like I like the bench seat personally. Um, I'm an old school pickup guy. He bought this, and I remember thinking, I'm like, that's nice, but like, you could have paid off your house. And then down the road, eventually, the house still wasn't paid off, but they took out, I guess, an extra line of credit, and he built a shop, a big, huge shop. You could have had the big thing paid off and just paid cash for the shop. And you know why he bought that pickup? Because he was tired of being the last guy on the logging crew not to have a new pickup. They control you. By your desire to be successful, they control you. And he ended up selling his pickup to one of his friends. And I saw that pickup every once in a while. And I'm like, yeah, it's still running all these years later. Still a good wood hauler. Still a good daily to town and back. Treats people good. But you traded something that was reliable for a payment. And that is so many people I see. And I know this when I bum change. Sometimes I'll have somebody in a really nice vehicle, drives by. I've had people give me $100 bills. You get 50s, you get hundreds. I get a lot of 20s. There's a reason I like a grocery store, because that's easy to get 20s. You know, I'm telling you, the majority of the people that are actually charitable, generally it's because they're debt free, or they have debt, but they're like charitable. I mean, it's amazing to me how we will set up our lives to effectively, I don't know how to put this, but set up our lives just to work in servitude. And that, in my mind, is like, if you don't even own your own time, and there's no guarantee. You know, sometimes I think religion is a great way. It's a great form of opium. Like, at the end of your toil in your life, there's the afterlife. What if there isn't? And all you did was work day after day. And maybe you love what you do, but that's not most people. When I drive truck, I happen to love driving truck. When I bum change, I happen to love bumming change. What if there's nothing after this, and all you did was work for a handful of things to die of cancer or diabetes or some bullshit? You could have lived another 20, 30, 40, 50 years of your life. But you had to have everything. Man, that's fucking poor to me, man. Sure, it's like a fancy coffin. Oh, look at that coffin. And you know, when the pharaohs did it, it's because they had so much wealth, they wanted to leave a sign that I was here. That's what it is. Fuck all this, afterlife shit. When you're that rich, eventually you want to leave something that shows the world I existed. Because they know in the infinite things of time, when you die, most of you after a generation or so won't be remembered. Hell, most people won't even remember extended family after a decade or two. They have to look it up in records. If this is the only life you've got, you want to prove you're not poor? Live debt-free so you can actually live your life as you want to. And that's why when people try to poverty shame me, I just laugh my ass off. Because I'm being real about it. I'm being absolutely real about it. If I can live off this much, this tiny amount, that actually means that effectively, yeah, I could work a job and do things you could only dream of. But anyhow, let me read the comments and then we'll be clicking out. Let's see. By the way, thank you for anybody who subscribed. There's a reason I turn it on to 20 minutes, because I don't want the dum-dums. I want the people that have actually taken the time. Yeah, I'm all about the living free in peace. Yeah, being out of debt's the way to go there, Sally. My uncle bought a truck and he was. Yeah, I mean, if pickup trucks are just expensive, and if you buy like a, if you're gonna work for a company, I say just drive for a company. Don't buy a semi if you happen to do OTR. It's just too up and down roller coaster. Brand new pickups, brand new problems. That's my outlook. Old pickups, all the problems have already happened. I feel like I live as small as possible as soon as my husband. Next 5 years, we're selling everything. That's the way to do it. The RV and the cheap piece of land. That really is the way to do it. Because like my northern property on the west coast, under $60 per month. I paid 50 grand for the two lots connected to each other. If I'd been smarter about it, I would have bought that other one for 15 grand. It just had some tie-ups. It had some issues on the title. I would have bought that lot, and I would have only had one HOA payment. So I mean, I pay like what, $500 in taxes and then 220 in HOA. So let's see, 110 in HOA and then 250 for taxes. If I'd bought well, probably even less than that because the other lot costed less. So you get one lot that's affordable, and then maybe you find another place in the country during the winter. Like I'm down here in the wasteland. It was the other day. I was like, man, it's too hot. It's like 80 something degrees, you know, in early November. And then basically, yeah, it's going to get a little chilly, but I can handle the cold. I like the dry cold here. Well, and this isn't going to be cold. I mean, it gets down to the early 20s at night, somewhere in the 20s in December and January, but it's not that level of like wet cold, miserable cold. So you have a piece of land up in the north, and you get a piece of land down somewhere in the south where it's dry. And for 5 or so months, you're in one place, and 5 or so months you're the other. And, for instance, one thing you could do, like, let me give you a route that I think of. I'm down here, greater Moapa Valley area. And this is the tactic that I would say. There's places like over near Bend, Oregon in the Cascades, where there's a place called Wickiup Reservoir. And a guy could kind of drive down the I-5 a bit or go over Squahami or want to say go over to Wenatchee, like Lake Wenatchee, and then just kind of zigzag his way down for a month or two to the wasteland. Stay a couple weeks here, a couple weeks there, maybe more than that. Just kind of drive here and there. And you could do a different route, kind of take the long route just for shits and giggles. So you take a month, maybe 2 months, a month and a half getting to where you want to get to. So you got 5 months in one place, 5 months in the other, and whichever place has the better deal for your taxes in your retirement, where you have like some money invested, making you 10% or more per year. Yeah, that's where you outfit out of. And this is just kind of a crazy thought I had with an RV. What if you had an RV on one side and then a van on the other, and then just ran a couple ropes and a tarp between the two of them? So you'd have like this big, like, and then have a motorcycle or something. Maybe have a like pull like a Ford Maverick or something. So pull a little vehicle behind there. So you got the motorcycle, and you could put like a little boat on top of the pickup truck, little tiny, like something the size of a little Toyota pickup truck. Something where you could go out and fart around in the hills if you wanted to, but you don't have to. Something where you could put the motorcycle in the back if you wanted to as well. But if you had a van here, like a van like right here, and then the RV here, you could make a pretty kick-ass hangout spot between the two of them. So you just have to have the van doors open up towards the RV doors, and then you could even build a system to collect water between them. I just was looking at that, and I'm like, that'd be fucking sweet, man. So anyhow, yeah, I'm gonna take off. It's gonna take forever to upload because if I go over 15 minutes, it takes damn near a day to upload, which is like, figure that one out. Anyways, yeah, just remember when people try to use poverty as a shame, understand they have been conditioned and trained to have their entire lives revolving around the concept. They're trying to avoid void that just to be acceptable to people that will inevitably leave them behind. Make no mistake of that. When hard times come, most of the people who claim to care about you will disappear. Your enemies will always be your enemies, so you shouldn't give a shit what they think. And for the most part, even the people that care about you, you shouldn't allow their opinion to control you. As far as everybody else in between, well, they're just trudging their way through life. There's only really you. And if you're happy, if you can figure out minimalism and you found some level of happiness to where you don't have to, work yourself into an early grave, you've won. Because, I don't know, there may be an afterlife, and hypothetically, let's say there is. I feel like I'm closer to God. I feel like I'm closer to God than most people can comprehend. And I don't know if that makes any sense. But I had this revelation the other day when I was doing my laundry down in the Virgin River. And when the river's kind of, before the rains come or high melt happens, it's actually kind of a decent river. And then once the melt comes, it's a big brown river. I'm doing my laundry down there, and I take it back up the hill, and I tie it to the side of the van, and it's drying out. And I feel like I've just cheated modernity out of another dollar of mine. The modern laundromat is $5 per load. And then drying's probably, so what used to be $3 is now $5 something. And part of the reason I went to the old ghetto laundromat, which apparently still works, it's and $2 a load, right? And then $1 to dry. But I'm out there and I'm just doing it. It's not costing me anything. It's just a little bit of time. It's some exercise. It's good for the body. And I think to myself, every time I reduce what I need, the amount of money I have to make, and I free my life up, it allows me to be me. And it gets me to thinking about the concept of part of the reason that some religions would say that you shouldn't have children if you're going to be the priest, the father, And I don't know whether that's good or bad, but you can't really focus on anything greater if you're constantly toiling away for your day-to-day things. You can never achieve greatness if you have to spend 50 or 60% of your waking hours, 70, 80, 80% of your time. Think about it for a second. 80% of your time, between getting up, the preparation for what you're going to do that day, which is work, get up, eat, what was that Beatles song? Not to drag out this live. That Beatles song back in the day where it's like he gets up, drags the comb, eats something has a cup of joe, has a smoke, and he's fucking running for the bus. And you just think about that for a second. How much of our life like that is just like that, where you get up not with the intention of, thank you, I'm alive, and it's the morning. You get up because, shit, I got to get to work. So you're working from the moment you get up. Then you get in your car and you give away, let's say you got a 40-minute drive. So you got to plan an hour just in case there's traffic. You just gave up an hour there and probably an hour back and 8 hours at work. So when you get up, you spend half an hour in the morning, then an hour into the drive, 8 hours, and then another hour home just to collapse and hopefully have a little bit of food. Your entire existence is maintaining so you can go back to work so you don't look like you're poor. That is slavery. And it is self-inflicted. It is insanity. You can never achieve any greater thing with that much weight on your back. And this brings me to the whole concept of the God and the spiritual. There's a reason that at times the sages, the priests, the whatever, they don't want these people to have kids, because how can you ever focus on something great and meaningful and spiritual if 80, 90% of your waking hour is spent toiling away, just to be toiling away the next day? How could you ever do any scientific research? And this is why I've said for ages that minimalism is quite literally the skeleton key that opens all the greater doors of life. in a first world country, because we live in a wonderful era in a lot of these first world countries where if you can learn to live off next to nothing and work an actual decent paying, high paying job, yes, your retirement comes a lot younger. The idea of paying payments on a car seems ridiculous because you could just pay cash for it. Dreams become reality when you understand minimalism. And that's the thing about it. In the same way, just like the connection to God, the earth, the land, you can't take the time to hear the birds sing. The sound of a tiny lizard moving across the desert. Little tiny, I don't know what it is. Is it a salamander? Is it a little gecko? Bite half a grape and throw it out there and you watch it. Take the time, the drink from the grape. You can't have the time to actually achieve anything of greatness because the back and forth day to day, as this person put it here, monotony. So yeah, when it comes back to the concepts of poverty in my mind is not the amount of money you have. It's the amount of effort that you have to put in just to be in the same place over and over again. You only escape in that rat race when your money's now making you money. When your money can work for you and you can stop working, then we can talk about poverty again. But the quickest way to get out of that cycle is minimalism. When you can sit down and listen to the birds singing, the sound of the river, life itself. And that is when you can do incredible things. What is your dream job? What is your purpose? You know, like all these artists out there that are starving artists, they're starving artists because they're trying to have an image that everybody else told them mattered. You can never truly focus on your art, your music, your passions, if your entire life is circled around, gotta make that check, gotta get up in the morning, spend maybe half an hour to an hour, flash fucking myself into existence, then an hour to work, 8 hours at work, and then an hour home, and then collapse, eat some food. We're talking 11-hour days. When I drive truck, I drive 11-hour days. But I wake up, walk 3 feet, okay? Take a half an hour break. So I work like a 12-hour day, 14-hour day. But I get paid goddamn good money to do that. And I don't have to pay for rent, utilities, or anything in that. That is not the case for most people that are middle class, even well-to-do people. I can't name the number of times I've seen people who make like $150,000 between the husband and the wife, or $200,000, and they're still broke. Imagine $200,000 in a year, and you're still doggy paddling. Yeah, I may be living off like less than $100 a month out here in the wasteland. But like realistically, and we could add in, if we add in the cost of my property up north, so $60 a month. So we're talking still under $300 a month, even buying some vodka, and if I was smoking weed. Even a little bit of extra food, shit, I'll hit up a food bank. I got no shame. I got no qualms about it. This is a really easy world to win in if you just don't do things in reverse. Anyways, I'm gonna take off. This video will take forever to upload. And yeah, but see, that's the truth. I know it's weird, but it's like cleaning cloth by hands. I don't know, man. It is kind of cool when you. I just think, don't get me wrong. I love a washing machine, but if you're already out in the middle of nowhere and you got a creek there, I've actually thought about it. Like, okay, so you gather up some water and you use that biocompatible, absolute stream safe, fish safe soap, but you build like a little rock dam on a creek. And then you take your clothing and you just let it sit there in the water for a bit. Just let it soak for a while and then come back later after it's soaked for God knows how long. Then put it in the 5-gallon bucket with the absolute, hippie style, biocompatible, which is better than biodegradable, because it's actually soap that's plant food. And, fish safe, all the safe, amphibian safe. So go up on the hill a little ways, pack an extra bucket so you can gather water from the creek. You wash it up there, you rinse it as much up there, then you throw it back in the water. Now most of it's out of it. And, in between when you're doing it, you could be working on your garden or a pastime or whatever, you know, and it's just a weird rhythm to it when you're doing it. It's just like, because you don't have, like you think about what forces you to go back into society, which means you're going to have some money so you can buy the things. What forces you to deal with the rest of society? And every time I remove one of those, I don't want to say chains, but it feels that way. That those things where they're dragging you back to their society, forcing you to pay their toll, their payment. Every time you rip one of those fucking claws out of your back and liberate yourself, it's that much less weight on yourself. But yeah, I mean, I just enjoy doing it because I just think it's funny. I just laugh about it every time. And I know a lot of people are like, that's weird. Yeah, but I think it's weird to work yourself into an early grave. Anyways, peace. Take it easy. Freedom Phil out.